Hi guys, so today I'm going to be showing you all how I turned a wooden snowman on the lathe, and I realize I'm probably a little late on this considering it's now through the better part of January, but I really wanted to show you guys how I did this because I gave this away in a gift exchange for my woodturning club, and they were all asking questions about how I made it, and they were all pretty impressed, and I did record turning it. I never got around to editing and uploading it. And I figured now that it's past Christmas, I would just let it be. But I decided to share this all with you guys. So I promise there's going to be a regular project next week. Nothing seasonal or weird Christmas themed projects. So let's get into it.
I started out by roughing in a piece of spalted maple. It's a large square round, so it took a long time to rough in. But once I had it down, I worked on the shape with a 1/2-inch bowl gouge. Once I was done shaping, I sanded off, starting with 150 grit. Then I moved on to 240, 320, 400, and 600. Then I parted off each end as thin as I can get it, broke them off, and cleaned it up with a knife. I used African blackwood stock for the buttons and the eyes. I set my calipers to the right width so that I can repeat each and every button and get the same size. And once I had the size down, I used my spindle gouge to round over one edge, and then I used my parting tool to bring down a very tiny tenon on the other end to fit one of my drill bits. And once I was done bringing down the tenon, I rounded off the under edge. After a quick scuff with a red Scotch-Brite pad, I parted it off with my thin parting tool. I repeated this process 10 times for all the buttons and eyes. Next I used a piece of walnut to work on the smoking pipe. I started off by working on the smoking pipe body. I hollowed out as much of the inside as I could with my large bowl gouge, but after a while I moved on to the spindle gouge because it was easier to fit inside. After that I used a small drill bit to drill a very tiny little mortise to accept the stem of the pipe later on. I parted it off and parted down a few sections left on the piece of walnut to be used as the smoking pipe stem. After sanding, I parted it off and glued it into the mortise in the body of the pipe with medium CA glue. This is a piece of bubinga, just a very small cut off from a pen blank, and this I'm shaping up to be the carrot nose. I made a little tenon on this too so that I can glue it into the body of the snowman. And I sanded up to 600 grit and finished up with a red Scotch-Brite pad. Now this was my own idea, and I gotta say I'm pretty happy with it. I decided to tip it off center and cut in tiny little grooves for the nose like they are on an actual carrot. So I'd cut one groove, tip it another direction, and I go back and cut another one. And I kept on doing this till I got a look that I liked. And afterwards, I sanded out all the grooves with some 400 grit sandpaper just to smooth it all over. This was a piece of Norfolk Island pine that I cut up, and this will be the base where the snowman will sit on. It has some really neat blue streaks going through it, and they kind of remind me of snow for some reason, so that's why I went with this. Okay, now hang on, let's just stop right here. As you can see, I've already started assembling this, and I'm using medium CA glue. In the right corner of your screen, you'll see a piece of walnut wood that looks like a hat. That's because it is a hat. For some reason, I forgot to film how I made that hat, and I'm kind of hating myself now because I wish I had filmed it. Now, let me just summarize the turning of that for you. I turned a hat, obviously. I used a piece of African blackwood to burnish in a stripe around it, and then I sanded the head of the snowman on the disc sander to an angle so that the hat doesn't sit perfectly on center. It's kind of tipped to one side a little bit. Because in the words of Frank Sinatra, angles are attitudes.
Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was one of my most creative projects. That was a totally original idea. The whole thing, I didn't have set of plans or instructions or anything. That was all kind of an on-the-spot turning, and I want to thank my mom for making the little toy bag next to him. And she also made a card for it that said Woolen Wood Creation, which she does rug hooking with wool, and I do wood, so she titled it Wool and Wood because the toy bag was made out of wool. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the project, and I will talk to you all next Friday.